Let's use object-oriented programming and get rid of our lag for our Go blocks. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Up until now, we used a lot of possibilities related to object-oriented programming without really talking about it. For example, we are extending a class from another one or implementing an interface. The core functionality of object-oriented programming is that you can have children that are extending from their parent and they will inherit the power of their parent. This is called inheritance. Knowing about inheritance, we can utilize that to make our blocks behave the way we want to. And we already touched it without talking about it. In this video, I want to talk about the concept and expand upon on our knowledge so that when you are programming your own mod, you keep in mind that you can use and utilize these concepts. For example, our Go base block is the parent block that every child is inheriting their code from it. So whenever I have this set player pause or get distance or process block or break block, whatever, as long as they are static, because they are protected, the children can utilize that. If it was not static, any instance of the Go block, for example, I could use this dot, and then you would see that I can get my hand on the original chunk or whatever method that the parent has, and I'm not redefining it. Because we defined it as a static, I can directly call the method without using this dot, and it will work, and this is called inheritance. Now, the problem regarding our lag is that when we want to process the block, we will break the block immediately. The breaking the block calls upon our spawn, and the spawn will use item entity and spawn it in the world. Now think about a tunnel that is 256 blocks in length and 9 blocks 3 by 3 in each section. It means that we are breaking 2,304 blocks. We are collecting their items and we are immediately spawning it in the world. 2,300 times of calling world.spawn entity inside the single frame, and we were wondering why did we have frame rate drop? Well, that's the problem there. So if we want to get rid of this problem, we need to sit back and think, how can we distribute this job into multiple frame rates and multiple update calls without causing a problem? Of course, we could get this, the whole result, inside a list, and I don't know, inside the tick method on the Go base BE, we would handle something. But what I'm trying to do right now is similar to that, not completely that approach. I can go with distributing this breaking process into the bomb goos and make it the responsibility of each bomb Go block to drop the items related to itself. So I will use the concept like saying that I have a protected, and it's not a static, it's not final, it's a list of item stack, and I will call it drop items. I can instantiate it to be the array list. And yes, now that I think about it, I can make it even private and final, but we can't make it static. Then I need a way to get this, so I will say after the constructor a public method that returns a list of item stack get drop items, and we return the list. However, I'm not gonna add a setter for this because the setting will happen inside the Go base BE. Again, another concept that we talked about it in previous episodes, we are going to encapsulate the setting behavior inside the Go base. Okay, now instead of breaking the block directly here, I will comment it and I will rename this break block to be get break block items, and I will call it here. So it will be get break block items, and now this shouldn't be protected because we don't want to call it outside. It should be private, and I will not make it static. So you will notice that I have a problem here, but the moment I say this dot, or actually I say entity dot, it will work. Now block.get drop stack. Here, because we are working internally inside any entity, we can say drop items equals to that. Well, I made it final, didn't I? So instead of doing that, I will say get the stack, and we don't want to do anything here with the spawning. Instead, we will say drop items dot add the stack. So we are not touching the instantiation of a final variable, and here we say that replace iteration with bulk, and we can do that. So drop items add all the result of the drop stack, and that's it. Now, what we did here is that each instance, and I can actually say that entity dot get drop items dot add all. So I'm completely encapsulating the access of drop items into the entity each time. And yes, I don't have the origin usage, so I can comment it right now. And finally, when the time comes to drop the item, I can say that it's protected this time, void drop items. And inside this method, I need the word, and instead of position, I need the entity. So I will take that, I will paste it here, and I will add it here. So we have the word, we need the origin. So I will get the origin from here to here, and then I will say entity dot get drop items. Now this time I will go with for each, and here I will say get the stack, and no, God no. And here we simply say that please spawn in the word with the origin and the rest, So I can just get this from here and replace this one here. So we are calling the spawn on the stack. Now, what did I do so far is just I added a list to every single one of the block entities related to Goo. Okay, then each time I'm processing a block, instead of breaking the block, I said that, you know what? The entity here, actually, let me think about it. The process block, oh, it shouldn't be here. This is base. Wait a minute. I need to handle things differently. We are setting it on ourselves, and this is not what we want. We called it base BE here. So here we say base BE, and yeah, we need to remove it there. Now, you want to know what is the problem. The problem is that if I move this code above in here, we don't have access to the new block entity that is being generated. And in this case, it would be, I don't know, maybe the air bomb goo or anything else. We don't have access to it in the top section. And when we are here, we don't have access to the original block because we already replaced the block in the word. So what I have to do is to say that we have a list of item stack we call items, and here we will say that it's equals to the drops from here. So I will say equals to that on the entity, and you see that it is actually calling just the coordinates and then get the blocks using the entity. The entity here is irrelevant. All we need is the positions. So we get the items first here, and what is your problem now? We need to change this guy, where we say that instead of this, we return this value, and we can't keep it as void, so we will fix it with returning a list of item stacks. So we got the list, and here we say be dot get dropped items dot add all the items that we have on top. This is the proper way of handling it, because here we get the blocks and get the result of breaking the block. Then we are adding the goo. Then we are setting that item list to the new goo, and that's it. So finally, the last piece of puzzle is when should we drop the items? Let's start with air goo bomb. At the end of the process, wherever we are going to drop the block entity itself and vanish, or I don't know, convert it to stone, we will say this dot drop items on the word and the position, or actually, let me see, drop items need the entity. So this and drop items, this is protected, so we should have access to it here. What is the problem? It says create method in tick logic. Oh yeah, we can't use this entity, sorry. Entity dot drop items. Now the drop item here, we need to go with air bomb goo, and it will fix itself, and its entity again, and it will work now. Basically what we told the system to do is that, hey, before vanishing, check your list, and here we say that drop items for each item stack in your own list. Now we can do a little bit of optimization and say if it's empty, return. Now that we have air goo bomb, take note that we are not doing any processing here. Okay, so we just replace ourselves because the processing shouldn't happen on air goo. The processing is actually happening on things like bridge or chunk goo or I don't know, the towering and tunneling. The bombs will just replace themselves. However, before vanishing into thin air, we will drop their item. The other one is the bridge goo. Now, bridge goo is the processing block and it shouldn't replace itself with air, and it's not a bomb goo, so it's okay. The chunk goo is actually processing the block, so that's okay. It will put a chunk bomb. Chunk bomb here, when it goes into thin air, we should say entity dot drop items for the word and entity, and then please go into thin air. The reason is that the chunk goo had already processed the blocks where it is placing the bomb, and the bomb will vanish on the horizontal layer first, and at the same time it will put other bomb goos below itself, so each bomb goo should drop the items properly this time. And then the next one, lava eating goo and lava generating shouldn't affect anything because they just convert the lava and air to each other. The stone bomb goo is again one of those things because it will be replaced with the stone, but originally it was something else. So we will say entity dot drop items and for the word with the entity. Now we have a problem because this is a stone bomb goo, BE, towering goo. Now towering goo is the very first block, so yes, it will replace itself and we will say that entity dot drop items for the word with the entity, and I will copy this. Tunneling goo is the same deal. The first one is actually being replaced with the stone, so yeah, why not? Chunk goo with the chunk bomb goo, so yes, actually no, the position is already processed. I don't know if I need this one or not, because if you notice, I'm finding the chunk around the goo and I'm already processing the block with chunk bomb goo, so I assume that we don't need this line anymore. It should behave, and honestly this shouldn't happen here. Oh wait, we are bypassing ourselves, so I will not do that line. I will close the if here and I will remove this to the top. So I merged this line into the for loop. It should work without a hiccup. And that would be it. Then the tunneling, we already fixed it. The chunk is already being processed, so that's okay. And finally, I double check that the process behavior is correct. So we'll get the list from the position and everything else should be okay. Take note, instead of breaking the block, we are just calling it here and yeah, it should work. Basically, we took the responsibility of a spawn outside of the process block into another method call, and that is drop items, and then we call that drop items from our goo block. Okay, if you want to, we can give it a test right now. Let's go into the game. Okay, for testing our fixes, let's go into a new world and I will show you how did I test my chunk goo. It's really nice to see that. So it's creative, it's peaceful, and the world is just no structures please, no bonus chest, and I don't care about the rules. So let's just create a normal world. Of course, if you want to, you can go with something like amplified, but I will use the default. Let the word being generated, and the thing that I will do is mimicking a real scenario on a real gameplay. Okay, so let's say that we are playing into this game, and what I want to do right now is just create and craft a chunk goo for myself, and then I craft the copper rod, and I'm not finished. I want some chests and some hoppers because I want to store every item that I will drop under the ground. So I will go into a higher level because I want to move down as much as possible. And now I want to find the border of a chunk. So I will use F3 plus G, and this is the border of a chunk. I will check that it's almost, yeah, it's on the land, good. So this is the chunk that I want to break, okay? Now I noticed that this is the height that I want to work with, okay? So I will go one above that and I will put some blocks underneath myself. This is the chunk, okay? Now I know that as a matter of fact, I will have a layer of stones being generated on this block. So I will start from the other block being here. I will add some chests here, 2, and I will go down with more, 3, not there, 3, 4, and 1 more. This is the 5th, okay? Now I will add hoppers on top of these. And I will not go more than these. Okay, these are the hoppers here and here and here and here. Okay, now I will be careful and I will try to position myself right at the edge in such a way that any item that drops will drop in both of them. Then I will come back and try to activate it. Notice that I placed myself properly first, and I activate it and I jump up. Now, as you see, the items are not spawned at the start, because if it was dropped at the very start that I activated things, then my inventory should be full of junk right now, okay? But it's not. And you may not notice it, but the moment I see this behavior, that things didn't jump into my place at the very start, I knew that, okay, my thing is working for the chunk group. The thing that you see here, like a waterfall, is responsibility of that spawn method. And if I move down here, you will see that things are being collected first here. And then when they are done, oh God, I screwed up, okay? When things are done, that is when we will have our items being collected up into other chests. Now, I don't have anything else to do with the chunk goo. Let's go with another example, maybe the towering goo, because that's the next thing I want to test. So I will create a rod. I will come here somewhere and I make the decision that, you know what, I want to dig down. Now, take note, I will not put any hopper here. I will activate it and I will wait. As you see, the items are not dropping immediately. I mean, each time the air bomb goo or the towering goo or the tunneling goo or the stone bomb goo is doing its thing, it will dropping one item at a time, because, well, we are breaking stone and dirt and they will drop one item at a time. Now, if I move around, you will see that the same waterfall behavior is happening here, because, well, I moved away and it's storing the place of activation, and it will use that stored activation place to drop the items. So you can stay here, or you can put a hopper and a chest and start collecting things, or you know what, I can go down and go with the bomb goo, but I'm not collecting anything else here now because I'm dropping items on top. So I will move forward as long as this thing will hit the bedrock, and then I will come back up. If I have a hopper, my things are in the chest already. If not, I will have things staying on the floor waiting for me. And take note at my frame rate, 200 frame rate. Now, if you watch the previous videos, the moment I had these chunk goos or towering goo or anything else, my frame rate would drop to 2 or 3 or 10 because of the constant item stack generation. And now it's slowed down. We are distributing that item stack generation between the frames. Although I have lots of item stacks sitting here waiting to be collected by hoppers, but my frame rate is not dropping. Now, at the same time, I can do something else. Let's go down to a deeper layer, like around somewhere else. Yeah, like around here. And thankfully, these waters are not sources. So let's put a 3x3 area here. And you remember that we will dig one level above. So I will get to the next test. I will use a tunneling goo. I will put the tunneling here. I will place myself, but at the same time, I want to have a platform here, again, to demonstrate it. So I will stand here and I will take a look and I will activate and I will jump, away. If it was the original code, I shouldn't see any new item being generated here, but it would drop all the items in one go and it would fill my inventory with everything. And honestly, you don't see the difference, but there is a huge difference there. First, my frame rate didn't drop and I didn't get all of these items in the first run. And now, if you recall, some of the goos should be on a distance that is not being processed by my settings right now. So I emptied my inventory. If I go into the tunnel and give myself a few torches, please. Thank you. Here's the continuation and here is the continuation of the tunnel. I may have ended the tunnel already. I'm not sure. No, actually we are continuing. So this is the end. Okay. Now let's go back. Was that diamond? Yes. Okay. I was hoping to see an emerald somewhere. Anyway, I'm sure it's in the blacklist, but just in case. Now you see new items being generated and dropped here. I already emptied my inventory. So these items are being generated after I moved into the tunnel and new blocks came into the processing distance. So the goos became activated and they started dropping their item. And during this whole process, I never ever stepped down on the frame rate because I'm distributing the scattering and item dropping between the frames, and that greater or equal sign on the bottom layer fixed my remaining goo blocks on the very bottom layer. I can't see anything relaying there there anymore. If it was the original code, you will see one or two blocks at the very least right now sitting deep down, for example, there, and now it's being fixed. And finally, right now, my items should be waiting to be absorbed by the hoppers without me doing anything else. Hopefully they didn't despawn when I get out. No, they are there and they are being picked up by the hoppers. Now, we will add our own custom hopper into the game later because honestly, vanilla hoppers are not something that I want to play with. Now, why do I have a chunk goo here? This is not what I want. I got my original chunk goo back because I removed this check. And honestly, I should have dropped the chunk goo immediately. Now, if I want to, I can take it back here into the situation that we were, and it was working correctly because I already checked with the original code. There wouldn't be any chunk goo in any of the chests. And then when I'm going to replace the original one here, instead of processing the block, we are getting the items first. And this is the entity. It's ourself. Get break block. Oh, it's a private thing, isn't it? We made it private. Yeah, we need to make it protected. Now we need to change it so that we get the items, we replace ourselves, and then we do the other checks here that we were doing. So that, okay? So at the position we check and we set the original position and then we set the dropping items. This should prevent us from having any chunk goo now as the returning value in our block entities. Okay, the last one is the bridge goo. Now for bridge goo, I need to go up some blocks and I'm facing south right now. That's okay because now I will face north. I will put the bridge and I will activate it. Of course, I will not get anything in my inventory right now because guess what? It was air there and there was nothing to absorb in the first pass. However, if I break this, if I place another one and if I go and stand up here and I activate it, you remember we would drop to 0 frame per second and my inventory would immediately fill up with everything. And remember, right now I only have the goo block in my inventory. Let's remove that and give myself another rod. And that's the only thing I have. Now, if I activate it, I shouldn't drop on the FPS and my inventory shouldn't become full immediately. Let's see it. Well, my inventory became full. However, I'm not sure if you noticed something. My frame rate didn't drop. The reason I become full so fast is that my air goos are fast. If I reduce the speed of air goo, this wouldn't be the case of filling my inventory immediately. But the thing that is very promising is that my frame rate doesn't drop to 0. Actually, it cuts to half, becomes 170, 130, but it's not 0 anymore. And of course, I have some goos in the distance that are dropping. So if I go back right now, I should see some items staying on the floor at the end of the tunnel because I activated new blocks again. Let's see if that's the case. Please be there. Please be there. Oh no. Okay. My stone bomb is preferably working much faster compared to my air goo, and I can double check the settings and confirm it. So my stone bomb goo is 5, air bomb goo chance is 10. Actually, air bomb is faster than a stone, but both of them are pretty fast. I mean, they are working instantly. However, the fact that my frame rate didn't drop to 0 or 1 or 2 means that my code is behaving and working. And honestly, this was a bigger test compared to that one because we are preparing a huge number of block entities here that are spawning items, and I didn't see any lag there, and the towering and tunneling didn't drop me to 0. The towering actually is nice because I got the items slower compared to what I had before, and honestly I think I like it. The way I see it, it's really perfect now. Okay, let's go back to the code and talk about the reason I titled this video as utilizing object-oriented programming. As I said at the start of the video, we already utilize object-oriented programming a lot in modding without ourselves noticing it. The moment you write your own block and extend the original block from Minecraft, you are using object-oriented programming. When you are creating your block entity and extending it from, I don't know, blocks with block entity or block entity class or anything like that, or you are implementing an interface, you are already utilizing utilizing object-oriented programming, you may not ever think about it. When you are aware of the fact and when you are thinking properly, you would expand your mod in such a way that it will become much more powerful compared to what you had before. For example, if I show you my original Goo mods source, you would laugh because I don't have Goo base BE. I'm not even dropping the broken items. I just make them poof away without dropping a single stone, and they magically vanish from the world. And of course, because of that, you don't have any frame rate drop. But guess what? We are losing some blocks that you may want to collect to build your fancy building with lots of junk blocks like a stone, deep slate stone, and stuff like that. Every artist that plays in Minecraft has his own taste and they utilize these blocks. So why should we make them vanish? Also, collecting that junk and organizing them is actually what you have to do in real game, and it's part of the challenge of playing the game. So again, why should we make them vanish without getting anything back? My original code didn't have the Goo base block entity. It didn't have the concept of dropping item stacks or collecting them into memory, nothing like that. And each block entity had its own code to check all of these situations on top of the tick block over and over and over. Of course, when I was developing that mod, I was aware of the fact that I can do this. However, when you start a little small mod, you rush things to finish that because you think to yourself, well, this mod only has 10 classes and those classes are really simple. I want to get them finished. I want to publish this mod and get done with it and go back to game and play with it and have fun. So you really don't optimize your code. You don't really use the object-oriented programming. And each time you are going back to upgrade the mod, chances are that you won't look at that piece of code anymore because let's face it, this block of code may never ever change in future in Minecraft. Who knows? However, if you utilize object-oriented programming, unknowingly you open the door for future expansion and easier time expanding upon your first block of constructing your mod. So if I have a new idea for a new block maybe 2 years later and I think to myself that it can be a new Goo block, now that I have this construction, this infrastructure in place, I may have easier way of utilizing what I have because guess what? I'm already processing any block that I want to break, and if I want to make them vanish, well, that's it. Just set the block state to air and don't drop any item. That's okay. But if you want to make items drop, we already have that infrastructure in place. And utilizing object-oriented programming, we did add that list into the base and we encapsulated the fact that we are setting the content inside this Goo base without having an ability to replace it and make this final. We only give ourselves the ability to get that drop item list out of the block entity. Also take note that I can convert this to be protected without any problem because the only things that are manipulating this list are extensions of the same base. That's not a bad thing. However, I keep it as a public because I don't know in future, maybe I have a new block that would ask you to put a Goo somewhere close to it and it would read the content of this list and that machine would handle things and well, you would need this list being available outside of the concept of Goo blocks into your new machine. Who knows? When you finish the mod development, you will have time to come back and make the decision to maybe make this method protected. And you can even put notes for yourself if no machine block other than Goo blocks are using this. Okay? Maybe your mod development will take 6 months. Who knows? After that, you will review your to-do list and immediately you see that your Goo base has this to-do. And you make a note that, okay, I didn't ever develop a machine that would bind itself to this Goo, to any Goo. So that's it. Make it protected. Or you may remember that, yeah, you know what? My pump machine is now using a Goo. So your fluid pumping Goos like lava pump or water pump is not actually having any inventory themselves and they will not put anything into any inventory. They are just there. They are just like any other decorative block. However, you added the functionality that they may dig down to make a well And you know what? Now a pump machine will look into that goo, and the goo is responsible of returning the item stacks so that the pump machine will have an inventory with those junks collected there. And then yes, there will be an inventory with the fluid to put the fluid there. Who knows what you want to do? It's up to you. This is your game mechanic. This is not the game mechanic that I'm after, but your game mechanic may add a machine that is utilizing these goos in another way. And then yes, you may need to have this available outside of the base goo class. So you don't make this decision right now, but at the end of the whole process of developing your mod, you will come back to these to-do lists and you make notes that I have this to do. So yeah, I want to make sure that I will change it back to protected, or no, I need to keep it as the public and get rid of the to-do. If you are going to add a new block entity, or if you are going to add a new block or an item class or whatever, sit back and think, can I utilize the concept of object-oriented programming even more than what I have right now so that I can handle things better with the possibility of future extensions, expanding what I have? Or no, I should just sit back, write the code for that block and get done with that block, and that would be it. If you think that utilizing a hierarchy of abstraction, or I don't know, maybe a layer of inheritance helps, then so be it. Use it. Also, at the end of this video, we can add the abstract keyword on top of goo-base PE because it will not be instantiated by itself ever in the code. I will keep the lava pump and water pump goos out of the order because these are related to fluid transfer. And I want to have the fluid inventory first, learn how to add the fluid inventory into any block entity, and then we will come back and work with transfer API later, and then we will add these lava pump and water pump goos. And as I said, I may nuke them because I already have a machine that will behave as a pump. And I didn't add it here actually, I think. Minor fluid pump. There we go. And this fluid pump will pump any sort of fluid from the world. And you know what? It will nuke the need to have two goo blocks. And of course, it needs energy, it needs fluid containers and stuff like that. We will talk about them later in future videos. So from the next video, we will start working on our machines. And the very first machine that I want to work on would be gem cleaner. Why not? The gem cleaner will start simple and we will add upon it layer by layer. It will start with a simple GUI and show the GUI. Then we will add the concept of normal inventories into it. On top of that, we will add energy into the machine. And then we will add fluid containers as tanks into the machine. On top of that, we will add crafting mechanics into the gem cleaner. When we are done with gem cleaner, we learned how to develop a machine that has inventory, that has energy, that has fluid, and that is responsible of crafting. Basically, we have covered everything. After that, we will go with one after another and fix and finish every machine. Other than the ender chanter, that's an advanced thing that I'm thinking about. And animal feeder is different to others. Tesseract is a special one. But solar panel, for example, is a machine that is only generating energy and holding the energy. And after that, it will transfer the energy outside. We will have a fluid tank that I don't have it yet here. And we will work on that. Printer is an advanced thing. Project table is an advanced thing. But things like alloy mixer, block breaker, block placer, the cast press, the fluid pump, gem cleaner, generator, and even miner, oven, pulverizer, redstone clock, smelter, solar panel, and wood stripper. These are working on the same concepts that we will learn from gem cleaner. So as you see, lots of them will be covered one after another. Of course, there will be differences here and there. For example, cast press needs to send a packet or a payload from client to the server. We will talk about that later. Another example is redstone clock. It will generate redstone pulses. Each one of them will have their own special things, or may not the special things, but things that we want and we like to have in our mod. And at the end, you will have most of your machines covered. Animal feeder will come after them. However, things like ender chanter or the builder, printer, project table, and Tesseract. These are advanced topics, and I will stop developing them until much later that I cover things like custom fluids or village traits, custom villagers, and lots of things that we need to cover, including our own custom shulker boxes. And of course, then we have to work with mixins to get rid of this thing. And mixin, oh God, it's a very huge topic. So we have lots of things to cover. We just started the main process of learning about block entities. As I said, there are tons of things to be covered in future. Stay with us in this channel and please introduce channel to your friends. I honestly don't do advertising myself because I think people should find me themselves. But if you think that this channel is useful, please, please, please tell others in the community and your friends, and even in Discord channels like Fabric or others. If you notice that I'm teaching something that you like, please introduce this channel to others so that the community grows. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.